Hey, new holder here, you know. Enough of that. Let me turn the van off. So, a couple notes on MPGs, you know, for this trip I just did. I did one already talking about it kind of when I had the slip yoke leaking issue, which is still is leaking, but it's barely spitting. It's funny. I'm in Arizona. I look under. I can see that the yoke has a little bit of fluid on it. And I waited a couple days, and when I checked the level, I stuck my finger in, and it was still totally full. And it was funny, when I went to the guys over at Temecula Transmission, they said, oh yeah, a drop of that looks like a gallon. And that's the truth. So we're okay. It is going to get sorted, but I made the conscious decision. I think it was I'm hoping Dave will have the time to help me out and we can get the engine riser brackets in, because when we do that, we'll lift the transmission and the engine, and that's going to be where it's going to live. And then I'll have this issue sorted. It's going to need a new yoke. That is all 100% my fault, by the way. I just kind of misunderstood at the time. I was a little stressed out. I watched the video, and I know I'm coming off in the videos being like pretty positive, everything's a-okay, and that's the attitude I told myself to have, because why do you want to make your life more difficult than it needs to be, right? So, but I was a little stressed, and I was listening to what they were saying. I was taking in so much information, and when you watch that video, you see him with that little dial caliper, and it's moving. And I didn't fully understand what he was saying. What that was showing you is it was out of balance, but it was out of balance because the yoke itself is slightly out of round. So when he mentioned the new yoke, and he said it was $170 at the time, and I didn't know, I thought that was the cost of the yoke. He didn't say that was installed or anything like that. And they hadn't given me any numbers at the time. So I was scared to say, just do that. And when he said, well, we could balance this. And when he balanced it, and you saw that next thing, which was the dial that was actually on the machine, not the separate one, that showed it go from being a little out to being perfect. But the yoke was still a little bit out of round. So, and it was only what they did for me last minute. I mean, I called them up. I told them I was on the road. They took me in. They got it done. And that was very fair. It's what it should cost. You know, it was $225 done. It would have just been the cost of the yoke and a little bit more labor. So when I called back about redoing that, they said it'd be $170 installed for that. That does include the bushing and probably going to need a new seal, but those things are not that expensive. Anyhow, I will go down there to do that after I get the engine and transmission where it needs to be. Makes sense, right? Now, on the way there, as I was kind of frustrated, I was already in a bad mood. I was driving, it was 10 hours. And I was just flooring it, just wasn't smart about my own driving. On the way back, I did it differently. I had the MPGs and I was watching it, and I was driving based on that. And it was interesting. So my first leg leaving from my mom's house in Huachuca City, I gassed up somewhere on the 10 there before Tucson. And from there to Yuma, drove all the way. It only took 16 gallons of gas, I believe it was. I know I wrote it down. Yeah, 16 gallons. And it was 17.5 miles per gallon. It was 113 degrees outside. So 17.5, that's good. That's 2.5 miles per gallon better than I was getting. However, Yuma's really the low point. And so leaving Yuma, you're kind of going on an incline again on the way out. And so what I ended up, I was on the 8 at that point. I take the 8 to the 111, and the 111, it's underneath the Salton Sea, and that takes you to the 78. You take the 78, that turns into the 86, 78, and there's a checkpoint, Border Patrol checkpoint there, and that's right at another cross section. If you make a left, you take the 78, and I always do that, and that 78 takes me up into the desert, and up into the mountains, and into Temecula, and I gassed up there. And now, that drive, I purposefully didn't give a crap. I was gunning it, I was going fast, I was passing people, but I didn't have my maps on. Or did I? I can't remember. But the point is, I really beat it up, And at that point, it was 13.5 miles per gallon. Not great. So, but again, I did it on purpose. I come from the world of, you build. I had this old 67 Dodge that I built the engine, posi traction, did a crazy front end disc brake conversion to it, and all this stuff. And I used to be friends with this guy, Carburetor Al. He died a few years ago. One of the first people died of COVID. He was already old and overweight and on oxygen. He was on his way out. But Al used to tell me this all the time, because he raced cars. He raced Mopars, and back in the day, way back. And we were both of the same mindset. You build it, and then you go out and you beat on it, man. You send it. You full send. And if something breaks, and you make it better. And that's what I'm trying to do with this thing. So what I learned with this thing now is the MPGs are dead on. The thing about it is that it's changing all the time based on what you're doing with your gas pedal, what's going on ahead of you. By the way, that drive from Yuma back up into Temecula, heavy winds too. I had some crazy crosswinds and headwinds. I mean, I was getting blown around on the 8. So that had something to do with the 13.5. Again, if I'm driving fine, 17.5 is what I can expect. And this thing tells me that. It's basically telling me anywhere from like 15, 17, it gets pretty high sometimes. It doesn't matter what speed you're at. Once you get to the speed and you can just maintain it with barely having your toe on the pedal, it could be telling me I'm getting 22 to 25 miles per gallon. Pretty wild. But it keeps changing because you got to slow down. Somebody gets in front of you, traffic slows down, that sort of thing. The only way to get a perfect read on it would be a great condition road, no other traffic for hours. And that just doesn't happen, at least not where I'm driving. So what I wanted to get at is what I'm noticing is I'm going, once I hit an incline, and I'm not trying to give it a lot of gas, I see the MPG starting to drop. You got to give it a little gas to keep your speed up, and then that hurts it. So it just seems to me like the engine, works harder to move all this stuff around. Now, the next improvement is what a lot of people do, and that's the V8 swap, the LS swap. And when I talked to the guy up there at Triple something racing, I said it before, you guys know better than I do, out there in Calabasas, he had a LS motor that was an aluminum block. And he was selling me on that. He's like, get the aluminum block, you'll save weight. And it makes sense to me because when I get a bumper, I'm going to add weight. It'd be great if I have a zero net gain in weight, because I'm very serious about the V8 swap. The reason I'm considering the V8 swap, and tell me if I'm wrong, it's just that the people who have it, from what they say, is they get much better gas mileage and a lot more power. Engine has to do less work to achieve the same thing versus what the 4.3 V6 does. So apparently these things were designed for a V8, so they fit. So that's going to be my next thing, I guess. And it's money. I want you guys to understand I don't have money. I don't have a lot of money. Money falls into place for me sometimes. I work. I got some good work right now coming in for a while. And I don't have any kids that I know about. I don't have a wife or a girlfriend. I spend my money on what I feel like spending it on. And I don't care about savings or anything, and you could tell me I'm wrong, and I don't really care what your opinion is on that, because I'm going to be dead at some point. We all are. Can't take it with you. So I just have this thing in my mind. I want to dial this thing in super cool, best I can. And that's pretty much the next thing to do. So the one cool thing about it is that I'm giving you guys a record of everything. You see what's happening. You know what my issues are with it. Now, by the way, before I go with the V8 swap, I'm hoping I can get to that computer guy again and have him, it's $500, to have him attempt to dial this thing in for fuel economy. I do feel like it shifts a little bit. It's good. Everything's fine. Plenty of power, everything, but I'm being told by other people, I've read a lot of things about this, apparently you can computer tune your engine for fuel economy. So, if that's true, he did say he could do it. Let's do that first. Let's knock that out of the, let's get that done. See if that really works. It's an experiment. And you guys will be along for the ride on that one. And then when the V8 swap happens, you guys will be here for that too. I have one friend who's trying to steer me away from the aluminum. He's telling me to go cast iron, and typically I would do that, especially with a hot rod. Absolutely, cast iron. But with this thing, I don't know. It's a small enough vehicle, even though I'm carrying more weight. I feel like I guess with aluminum block, you probably got aluminum heads too, right? That's where you have your issue, I would suppose. But I can't imagine. I mean, 10 hours or more driving straight, 80 plus miles an hour every time. Is that going to be too much for an aluminum block? Figure put that aluminum radiator with the extra core for cooling. Make sure all your hoses are right, and I mean, do it right. I'm not going to do it half-assed, right? Anyhow, a little stressed out there in Arizona with my sister and her kid and everything. That took a lot out of me, man. That was rough. But anyhow, I'm back in LA. Just wanted to give you guys those numbers. So I can pretty much count on getting what I got before, up to 17.5 miles per gallon. Probably even do better if I'm not doing a whole bunch of up and down climbing, changing elevation and that sort of thing. I feel like I know what I get here even before versus what I get on the East Coast. East Coast, I always get crazy good numbers, even before with the 30-inch tires and the 342 gears. So I suspect with this on the East Coast, it would be a lot better even than what I'm getting here. Anyhow, have a great day. Be good to one another. Thanks for being here. I think it's kind of cool. And I get a lot of good positive feedback from you guys. I really appreciate it.